So, Floyd Mayweather CEO Leonard Ellaby gave his reaction to Canelo vs. Gennady Golovkin Trilogy, being on pay-per-view for $85, where Leonard Ellaby stated, quote, "Imagine a promoter effing off millions and millions of dollars aggressively, pushing a dumbass campaign in the US. Pay-per-view is dead. Only to come to this. Shake my head. Respect to Canelo and Gennady Golovkin. Get your money." End of the quote. One thing for sure and two things for certain. In order for DAZN to break even in this trilogy, they need to sell at least over 1 million pay-per-view buys. And the fact that this fight had no hype leading up to the fight and no hype after the fight, clearly this fight flopped in a major way. I can't see this fight selling more than 500 to 700,000 pay-per-view. And if that's the case, then DAZN lost over $35 million. And the scary part is that this is not the first time DAZN lost that kind of money. Absolutely not. This is the usual for DAZN every time they hosted the Canelo Alvarez fight. This is the norm. Every time Canelo and Triple G fought on the network, DAZN lost some serious money. In fact, when Canelo fought Daniel Jacob, DAZN lost around 30 million. If you don't believe me, people lie, women lie, however, numbers don't lie. It was reported back in the day when Canelo fought Daniel Jacob that fight did the highest ratings on DAZN, which was 600,000 in the US and 600,000 outside of the United States. The total viewership was 1.2 million. And DAZN was happy with that. That's why they released the numbers. But like Leonard Ellaby pointed out, if they happy with that, then they are in the game to lose money. Because if you do the math, back then pay-per-view did not exist. And subscription outside of the United States cost $1. UK DAZN did not exist back then. Here in the US, the subscription costs $20 a month, or $8 if you subscribed yearly. Keep in mind, per account, you could have 2 people logged in. So that actually counts as 2 viewership per account. However, we're going to give DAZN the benefit of the doubt to maximize the revenue that they made for Canelo versus Daniel Jacob. So we're not going to take in consideration of having 2 viewership per account, which is going to divide the revenue by 2. Nor are we going to factor in the $8 per month subscription, which is going to make the revenue less than half. Even then, if you do the math of 600,000 viewership in the US times $20, that will be a revenue of 12 million. Then if you do the viewership outside of the United States of 600,000 times $1, that's plus 600,000, which will equal a revenue of 12 million and 600,000. Then you could add the gate, which was 8.7 million. That's a total of 21 million and 300,000. This is the maximum revenue DAZN made for Canelo versus Jacob. Keep in mind, this is not factoring in having 2 people per account and the $8 per month subscription, which if we factor that in, that will divide the revenue by 3 or 4. However, let's keep it at the maximum revenue of 21 million and 300,000. Now we have to subtract the promotion for the event. Remember, Teofimo versus Kambosa's promotion cost Triller 10 million. So you can imagine what the promotion cost DAZN for Canelo. But let's give DAZN the benefit of the doubt again, and let's say magically the promotion only cost DAZN 1,300,000 for Canelo versus Jacob, which that will leave a total revenue of 20 million that DAZN made off that fight. Let's also say all of the fighters on the undercard fought for free. Even then, if we do the math, DAZN still lost $30 million because DAZN had to pay Canelo $35 million guaranteed. They also paid Daniel Jacob $15 million guaranteed, which that's a total of $50 million guaranteed that they had to pay both Canelo and Daniel Jacob. So if we subtract that $50 million that they had to pay off minus the 20 million in revenue that they made for that fight, then we end up with DAZN losing 30 million at the very least for their biggest event at that time. This is not up for debate. I'm giving you guys the factual numbers. People lie, women lie, old media definitely lie. However, numbers don't lie. I did the math right in front of you guys so you guys understand that I'm not exaggerating when I'm giving out these numbers. However, I'm more so underestimating the losses DAZN have received so far. So when Leonard Ellaby says DAZN are $1 billion in the hole, he's telling the truth because DAZN lost some serious money gambling on desperately trying to make their fantasy of a fighter on the hope list to be the face of the sport. Just look at Canelo Alvarez, for example. They lost around $40 million in the Kovalev fight. They lost millions of dollars every Canelo and Gennady Golovkin fight. Even when they fought each other for the third time, a fight that they thought was going to save the network, that trilogy even flopped, where they lost some serious money that's not repairable in any kind of way, shape, or form. It's not a coincidence that DAZN do not release their numbers. And when they release their highest numbers for Canelo versus Jacob, come to find out that they lost over $30 million. Just like when Canelo fought Bivol, the pay-per-view only sold less than 300,000, which takes me to the point that I'm trying to make. DAZN made the same mistake HBO made that took them out of business. They desperately wanted a fighter on the hope list to be the face of the sport, to replace Floyd Mayweather. Now the results of that fantasy was one, now possibly two, networks going out of business. If DAZN keeps following the HBO blueprint, they will eventually go out of business. Canelo and Gennady Golovkin are in the path of making history, of taking two major networks out of business in the sport of boxing. It was first HBO, now DAZN. This is one legacy to remember. Canelo and Gennady Golovkin been flopping so much that they took two major networks out of business, or they almost about to take the second one out of business, like they took the first one out of business, aka HBO. For the people that don't know, a quick history lesson. HBO for 40 years was the premier boxing network. When HBO was around, it was monopoly, not competition. They were the UFC of boxing back in the day. It was several major events that took place that eventually took HBO out of business. The main one was Floyd Mayweather leaving HBO. A lot of people don't know that if Floyd Mayweather never left HBO, then HBO will still be around today as the premier boxing network. However, Floyd Mayweather was so powerful that when he left HBO, he caused so much damage to HBO budget that was permanent because they couldn't get the revenue they were getting before when Floyd Mayweather was on the network. Then when Floyd Mayweather went on Showtime and Al Heyman created PBC, at that time for the first time in 40 years, HBO was no longer the premier boxing network, but Showtime was. Showtime became the premier boxing network, all thanks to Floyd Mayweather. Floyd created a direct competitor to HBO that caused permanent damage. Then HBO tried to replace Floyd Mayweather with a fighter on the hope list to be the face of the sport. That was their fantasy. They looked at the hate Floyd Mayweather was getting. So they thought to themselves, man, if they hate Floyd Mayweather that much and he's still selling like there's no tomorrow, all we have to do is find the opposite of Floyd Mayweather, a fighter that everyone loves, a fighter on the hope list that has the complexion for the connection to get the ultimate protection. Man, can you imagine how many pay-per-views this fighter on the hope list is going to sell since everyone loves him? Unlike Floyd, that's when they got Gennady Golovkin and protected him from Andre Ward. Then they got Canelo and protected him from the Charlo twins and Demetrius Andrade, even though he was famously known for getting smashed by Floyd Mayweather. That's how Canelo made his name. Canelo is famously known for losing to Floyd. So how the heck can he replace the man that smashed him? But HBO didn't care because Canelo had the complexion for the connection to get the ultimate protection. So HBO put all of their stocks in Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez. They thought they can force the public to buy the product that they were selling. They projected that Canelo versus Triple G was gonna sell on pay-per-view as much as Floyd versus Pacquiao did. Little did they know, that's not how the game works. And because they put all of their eggs in one basket, as soon as their projections didn't come to fruition, they were forced to go out of business. Now, the same two fighters that HBO put all of their eggs in one basket for, DAZN thought it would be a good idea to make the same mistake HBO made, which is put all of their eggs in one basket, the Canelo and Gennady Golovkin basket. I mean, if Canelo and Gennady Golovkin couldn't save HBO, then why would DAZN believe Canelo and Gennady Golovkin could make DAZN into becoming a premier boxing network? I just don't get it. Apparently, DAZN got fooled by the comment section, and clearly they don't have executives that know the sport. You see, instead of DAZN investing in Devin Haney, believing in Devin Haney, by at the very least getting the Kambosos fight on the network that was for Undisputed. Since Devin Haney was being so loyal to them, they ended up letting Devin Haney go, while breaking the bank to keep Canelo Alvarez, a fighter that's not willing to fight anybody that's gonna make the network money. However, on the other hand, a fighter that was willing to fight everybody, Devin Haney, they let him go. Because their fantasy is to have a fighter on the hope list to be the face of the sport. Multiple things that they did not factor is that not everyone has the it factor. Another thing they did not factor is that you can like somebody, but you can't fight for somebody. At the end of the day, or at least the night, a fighter has to go in the ring and fight for himself and continue winning against the best of the best. If a fighter that old media is pushing can't do that, then his reign is gonna be short-lived. Even if they promote the heck out of him like they did to Roman Gonzalez, Gennady Golovkin, Lomachenko, Canelo, Kovalev, and the list goes on and on and on. Again, old media can love somebody, but they can't fight for him. He still has to fight for himself. And last but not least, HBO, ESPN, and DAZN has the game mixed up. Just because Floyd Mayweather had haters, that don't mean a fighter who's loved is gonna sell more. In fact, it's the contrary. The reason why Floyd Mayweather and Muhammad Ali were so popular is because people hated them so much, they actually paid to see them lose. And you know what they say, if you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping. And there's a difference between hating and telling the truth. When we tell the truth about Canelo ducking and flopping, that's not hating. That's reporting factual information. That's the truth about Canelo the old media is not going to tell you about. On the other hand, when it comes to Canelo and Gennady Golovkin, apparently their supporters are not paying for anything. That's why they stay flopping. With the facts being laid out, the DAZN agenda is the same as HBO agenda. That's why they continue to make the same exact mistakes. With the factual information at hand, drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe below and click on the notification bell to be continued on the next episode of Akhi, Akhi TV. Peace, and I'm on to the next one.
Reason why I say that, here it is, a guy that has openly told the entire world that he was coming to America to take over boxing. Okay, let's leave that right there. He's coming to America to take over boxing. And he had a budget of well over $1 billion. I repeat, $1 billion. And what he has done, he has come over to the United States and didn't know the first thing about the marketplace at all. And excuse me for cursing again.
No problem.
And he's off over $1 billion. And there's nothing to show for it. Nothing other than what I am happy though for the fighters who got paid, who got paid a lot of money. I'm very happy about that. But as far as a businessman, just think about this for a second. If he was an NBA general manager and he was given a budget, because obviously everyone has a salary cap to build teams, what do you think would happen? You've spent all this money and you haven't developed a franchise, a winning franchise, you would get fired. The same way in the NFL.